Hi, this is Alan from Alpus Group with another video in the 20 key factors for project success. This is key factor 13, contracts and collaboration. Alpus recommends the following 20 key factors are addressed to ensure project success, and in this case we're looking at factor number 13, contracts and collaboration. We've done factors 1 through 12 and we've got another 6 to do after this in the series. So just to recap, key factor 1, a clear and concise project brief that defines the scope of works, the fundamental design parameters, the employer's or owner's requirements such as budget, cost, program, timescale and specific operational performance requirements and qual requirements. The project or program brief should reflect the vision of the sponsor of the project or program. So in reviewing the development of any site, you would look at the original use that the site has been granted. So that's the planning use, whether it's agricultural and residential, commercial, industrial or other type of use. You may have in mind that the site you've identified is suitable for a particular purpose because there's a shortage of a particular type of development or building in the area. But what you must do is ensure that the local town planning policy will support such a development on your particular site. So just to give an extreme example, you'd be unlikely to get planning permission to develop an industrial site in a residential area. So you need to be careful that your proposed development is appropriate for the area that you're working in. So you would look at the options, you would evaluate whether you need to seek outline and detailed planning permission or whether you have permitted development rights under the Town and Country Planning Order 2015. Irrespective of whether you have got planning permission or you haven't, you will need to carry out all your works in accordance with the building regulations. So this is a separate approval stream for your detailed construction drawings through the building control approval process. You need to assess your risks and decide on a strategy to proceed. So your strategy may be that you've got permitted development rights, so you don't need to worry, you can press ahead, you can seek the confirmation of that permitted development right from the appropriate planning authority and proceed, or you decide on a strategy which involves seeking outline and detailed planning permission from the local authority, and that would involve a risk assessment of your particular site. So obviously if you've got permitted development rights, it significantly reduces the risk on your site. Otherwise you need to assess all the other physical factors and contractual and neighbouring factors that affect your site. For example, ground conditions may be a risk, flooding may be a risk, and so you may need to take appropriate action within your design development to address these. You need to ensure that you provide adequate funding for your job, and this chart illustrates where we've calculated on the basis of the risk assessment a contingency sum of £150,000 on a approximately £1 million project. This is so that you have sufficient funds to deliver the job without going back and asking for more funds. The worst thing you can do is be over-optimistic about how cheaply you can complete your design and construction, and your risk assessment needs to take into account the particular factors on your job, and the funding needs to provide that things may go wrong, and you have the money there to draw down to resolve those problems. You don't have to spend the money, but you need to have the money provided in case you need it. Key factor 4, the site must be available and accessible. So you must have legal ownership of the site, or alternatively legal permission to develop the site from the owner. For the contractor to be able to start work, you must give him possession of the site, and he must be able to get access to the site for his vehicles, for material deliveries, plant and machinery. You may agree phased access, but once you agree the dates for phased access, if you fail to grant the contractor permission, then it may result in claims for delays and consequent costs. So a case study where this was a situation was land needing to be reclaimed from the sea, which was in use by the Baku Port Authority, and the port needed to be decanted to another area so that the cofferdam could be put in place and land reclaimed from the sea to enable the development of the site. Another case study that's relevant is the Balklands Railway project, where the client failed to secure all the necessary land for the railway project to be completed, resulting in contractors' claims. Key factor 5, statutory permissions, planning permission. You don't need to have legal ownership of the site in order to seek planning permission for development. You may choose to take out an option to purchase the particular site. An option to purchase the site gives you the right to buy the site at a predetermined price, but you're not obliged to purchase the site. So if you seek planning permission and it's refused, you may decide not to take up your option to purchase and not to pursue a further planning application. It depends on how encouraging the local authority were about whether you could get planning permission by modifying your submission. So the local planning authority is obliged to respond with their decision within 56 days of acknowledgement of an application. So you're entitled to expect a response, but of course it may not be the response that you expect. You can de-risk things by looking at what has been granted planning permission in the area and how successful similar applications have been. So you may have permitted development rights to convert from C3 residential to C4 HMOs, except where this right has been withdrawn in Article 4 areas. Or you may have permitted development rights for the conversion of storage space above commercial retail to flats. Permitted development rights for the conversion of the rear of the ground floor retail space to residential, subject to adequate access and certain other conditions. And permitted development rights to demolish an office block that's been empty for 6 months and rebuild the same footprint of residential up to 18 metres high. But you need to keep up to date with the permitted development rights because some of them are phasing out and others are phasing in. There's a new set of permitted development rights phasing in on the 1st of August 2021. So it's best to seek expert advice about whether your permitted development will actually be applicable at the time you're in a position to proceed. Key factor 6, agreements with neighbours. Many properties, particularly those in congested suburban areas, have neighbours that need to be considered. So you may need a party wall agreement with your neighbour, which protects you and your neighbour about works that need to be carried out between your property and the neighbouring property. There may be way leaves in place and rights of way for certain things on your site, such as sewers, electrical cables, gas mains, telephone communication cables, water main supplies, rights of access for maintenance, such as to electrical substations. You may have neighbouring mainline rail or tube lines, and you may be restricted in work you can carry out on your boundary as a result of this, or its method of execution. For safety reasons, you may be unable to carry out work at the perimeter of your site if it's within a close distance of the mainline railway. So you need to look at your works that you're planning to carry out, particularly involving craneage, excavators and piling rigs. And you may need to agree the designs and or the method of execution with the railway company, whether it's Network Rail or London Underground. And if you do have such a situation, then you may need an agreement between you and that authority, and you probably end up paying for them to review your designs and approve your method statements. Key factor 7, protection or diversion of utilities. We mentioned about the way leaves and rights of way in connection with services. You need to survey all of the existing services and utilities on the development site, so you can get some of this information from the relevant statutory utility company. And in some cases the existing building on the site will be demolished and the services can be cut off and discontinued, grubbed up. In other cases you may need to case or protect certain of the services from damage during construction. Alternatively, divert some services for which time may be needed. Key factor 8, advanced or enabling works. Some of this utility diversion work can be carried out as advanced or enabling works, as can demolition of existing buildings, and this advanced work may require a separate set of design and tender documents, and you can use the time while you're doing the advanced or enabling works package for the main project design to be finalised. Key factor 9, the contracting strategy. You need to decide what is the most appropriate contracting strategy for your project to be executed. Will you as the employer or owner undertake the detailed designs, or will you engage a contractor on a design and build basis? Will you carry out some of the works as an advanced or enabling works package? You need to decide on the contracting strategy for the execution of all of the design and construction work. And if there are certain things that are the subject of customer choice or selection, then you need to decide on those options and a time schedule for making those decisions. So the scope of each consultant or contractor needs to be agreed, and alternatively, rather than a main contractor, you may choose to employ a construction manager, in which case the contracts are signed between you as the employer and the trade or package contractors. So whereas a main contractor would pay subcontractors, in this case you as the employer would pay the trade contractors, who effectively would be the specialist subcontractors, and the construction manager would manage the contractors on your behalf. It's a slightly different model to normal. Key factor 10, a complete and buildable design. You need to decide what's the most appropriate contracting strategy, as we mentioned, and you need to appoint a design team unless you are carrying out a design and build contract, in which case the contractor has the design team under his control. So if you're doing a design and build contract, you need to prepare a preliminary design and some employer's requirements, so you're going to need consultants to do that. And you need to ensure that there's a clear responsibility matrix for all of the contracts you're letting, and no gaps, so the interfaces between the contracts need to be managed. Obviously, if there are customer selection options, these need to be built into the contracts, and the time schedule and the deadlines for making decisions and choosing particular kitchens, bathrooms, types of tiling need to be set out, bearing in mind, of course, that the timescales need to allow the contractor time to procure the items to meet his programme. Key factor 11, quality assurance and control. Within the contracts that you set up, you need to ensure that quality assurance and control is a responsibility of the designers and also the contractors or the trade contractors that you're engaging. So you need to choose designers, consultants and contractors who have the appropriate ISO qualifications as part of their system setup. Key factor 12, building information management and modelling. once you decide on your procurement strategy, your contracting strategy, you will need to decide on the extent to which you need building information management and modelling. If you are not a regular undertaker of projects, you may decide that you don't need this, and particularly if you appoint a design and build contractor, you can rely on him to carry out the necessary building information management and modelling. Alternatively, if you're an ongoing client with operations and maintenance requirements, you may choose to set up a specification for BIM and take ownership of this from the outset, so that you get the benefit of the development of the design and the incorporation of particular components within the design that suit you as an operator and for ongoing maintenance purposes. Basically, the BIM information enables the sharing of information between all the parties, from the client who initiates the project through to the end user or operator, as well as the design team and the contractor. So it should enable a more efficient design to be developed for the benefit of the client and end user. Key factor 13, contracts and collaboration. So you decide on your contracting strategy, and you need to set up the appropriate contracts with your designers and with your contractors. So essentially you need to choose a form of contract that is appropriate for the scope of works that you're letting. Main contracts could be let on a JCT basis, a small works contract for minor contracts, or a major works contract, or a design and build contract. And alternatives are the NEC forms of contract, or FIDIC as an alternative form of contract. But you need to consider the scope of works and the type of work that you're carrying out to see which is the most appropriate one for you. Irrespective of which form of contract you use, you need to encourage and support collaboration between the parties. So you need to write this into your contracts, that your designers and contractors are obliged to collaborate with all the parties of the project that you're looking at, and ensure that there's a free flow of information to resolve problems and not cause you as the client additional cost as a result of unsolved problems. If you want to know more about this subject or any other development issues, go to us at www.alpusgroup.com. We're based in Hindhead in the UK and in Slovenia. We are available on alan@alpusgroup.com. My telephone number is +44 7539 141257. I've got Skype, WhatsApp and FaceTime on that number. To book a 30-minute exploratory call with me, go to the Calendly link below /AlanJE. If you'd like a free contracts checklist, go to the tiny URL link below, and if you're interested in property development training, then go to the second tiny URL link in the description below. That's all for now. See you in the next video.